Okay, good evening. I'm Paul Kunkemuller. I'm Chair of the City of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm going to call our meeting for Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 to order at 6:34 p.m. First item on our agenda is roll call. So I am here, Ms. Bergeron is here, Mr. Boris is here, Mr. James is here, and Mr. Rusk is here. Mr. Jenkins and Mrs. Lottrop are not here, so we have 5 commissioners present. We have a quorum. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the planning and zoning meeting from February 19th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes from February 19th, 2025.
Motion by Mr. Rusk. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. James. Anybody have any comments or changes on those minutes? All right. Hearing none. Motion's been made and seconded. If there are comments, all those in favor of approving the minutes from February 19th, 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are approved 5-0-0. All right. Next item on the agenda is public hearing for site plan number 503, special permit number 475. CAM number 337, electric boat company care of Ferrero Engineering Associates, 75 Eastern Point Road, for a boatyard for building, storing, repairing, and selling or servicing boats. This is a continuation of the public hearing that was opened. The continuation of the public hearing.
January 22nd.
Yeah. All right, this is the continuation of the public hearing that was opened on January 22nd, 2025. I will read the public hearing procedure so that everyone is aware of what the process is. Good evening. I am the chair of the City of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to continue the public hearing for site plan number 503, special permit number 475, CAM number 337. The purpose of this public hearing is for the commission to receive input from the applicant, proponents, opponents, and all interested parties or citizens who wish to comment on the aforementioned application. It is important to note that once this application was received by the commission, no member of the commission may comment on or discuss this application with any other member of the commission, the applicant or applicant's agent, member of the public or interested party, except during the public hearing proceedings. Once the hearing is closed, commission members may only discuss this application with commission members during deliberations. The hearing is being recorded and meeting minutes are being documented. Anyone wishing to speak shall do so from the podium. Please state your names, clearly spelling your last name for the record, and provide your address. Please speak slowly into the microphone and reintroduce yourself each time you speak. The commission uses the following procedure during public hearings. Each hearing will be introduced. The applicant or designated agent will present the application. The commission and staff will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide comments. The applicant will then have the opportunity to address staff and commission questions and comments. The chair will ask for public comments in the following order: comments in favor of the application, comments in opposition to the application, comments that are neither in favor or opposition of the application. Any questions to the applicant, staff, or commission shall be addressed through the chair. The chair will pose the question or questions to the appropriate party or parties. Please limit public comments to how the application does or does not comply with land use regulations or the plan of conservation and development. The applicant will then have the opportunity to address public comments and questions. The commission and staff will be provided further opportunity to ask additional questions and offer further comments. These may be directed to the applicant or a member of the public who spoke or previously commented or submitted information for the record. The applicant and members of the public will have one opportunity to respond to commission and staff questions or comments. Commission will then decide whether to close or continue the public hearing to a future date. Once the hearing is closed, the commission is unable to hear additional comments or accept exhibits or correspondence in favor, opposition, or with a neutral position of the application. The commission will then deliberate upon the application. The deliberations will occur during a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission and be posted on the meeting agenda. The public is welcome to listen to the commission's discussions. Agendas are posted a minimum of 24 hours in advance of a regular or special meeting of the commission and are provided on the city's website and at the city clerk's office. During deliberations, commission members will discuss the application with input from staff. Commission will take into consideration relevant testimony and information provided by the applicant and members of the public. Following deliberations, the commission will then vote on the application. Vote outcomes could be to approve with conditions, deny, or deny with prejudice. Are there any questions regarding these procedures before we continue the public hearing? All right, seeing none. Public hearing is now continued. Mr. Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, Mr. Russ.
I didn't have a comment on to answer your question about any questions about the procedure, but I do have to recuse myself as I'm an employee, paid employee of the applicant.
Okay. All right, thank you for that.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Would his recusal bring us below or minimum?
No, we need four members for one. So we're still okay. All right, Mr. Casey.
Okay, thank you. For the record, my name is John Casey. I'm a partner with the law firm of Robinson and Cole. We represent the applicant, Electric Boat Corporation, in this matter. We are here continuing the evolution of the shipyard here in the city of Groton to meet the Navy's 21st century needs with the new class of submarine, the Columbia, as well as the Virginia class that are being constructed here at the shipyard. As with past applications, this is a functionally dependent use. Since it's a water dependent use, and these improvements are all on the waterfront. Related to mostly to new berthing spaces, which are not in the city's jurisdiction. But there are portions of this that are obviously in the jurisdiction, and that's why we're here. A little background on the regulatory approvals we've been through. We've received a permit from the Army Corps for dredging in connection with these piers. We are still awaiting a final permit for the piers themselves. So it's just a lot of coordination between the federal agencies to get that done. We do have a full permit from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection for all the activities, including those upland activities that impact coastal resources. We've provided a copy of that to the file. In general, I say a deep permit basically shows compliance with the Coastal Management Act, because DEEP cannot issue that permit unless it has determined that the activities are all in compliance with the Coastal Management Act. So I think that's very probative as to your decision on the coastal site plan itself. Locally, as part of the DEEP process, we've been to the Harbor Management Commission. Back in June of 2024, they reviewed and approved the project. Again, as part of the DEEP pre-application procedure, they found it was consistent with the city's harbor management plan. We've been to the Groton Shellfish Commission back in May of 2024, as well as the Connecticut Bureau of Aquaculture, who reviewed the project, again, as part of the DEEP pre-application procedure, and determined that the project would not impact shellfish resources, which are a little out of your purview, but we just want to let you know that we're doing everything we can to protect coastal resources. So the application you have today, as read by the chairman, there's special permit application. And I just want to say this is not a traditional special use permit. We're not asking to allow a specific use, which is the typical special use permit. We're not changing any use at the shipyard. We're not changing any buildings, anything like that. The existing use, manufacturing is permitted in the IT zone. This is a special permit that relates to modifications to the standards in the zoning regulations that we're asking you to make, which are under the stormwater management requirements in section 77C1. Under 77D, that section allows you to allow modifications to certain stormwater management requirements if certain requirements are met. So you'll hear a little bit more about that as we go forward. We initially thought we needed to get modifications to 2 of those sections, but we have been working with the engineer that's advising the city here. And actually we have it down to 1 modification we'll need, which relates to groundwater recharge and runoff volume. And I don't want to spoil it. I'm not an engineer, but basically there's no place to infiltrate water on this property. So, but you'll hear more about that. The site plan is pretty self-explanatory. That will be explained to you, as well as the coastal site plan review. Very quickly, before I turn it over, I'm here with our development team, Paul Herron, staff engineer from Electric Boat on the call. You can see in big letters is Dan Pedante, who's a project manager. From Lorero Engineers, we have Kirk Procherena, who will be presenting along with his colleague Ellis Farmer, and then from WRA, the program manager, Michael Priest. So we're all here able to answer questions, but we do think this is a fairly straightforward application. Like I said, most of the activity is in the water, beyond the mean high water line. But we're going to focus on those aspects that are within your jurisdiction. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Herron from Electric Boat. He will talk about the project overview, the need, the description, and the history.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. As John said, I'm Paul Herron, records Harren, and I work at Electric Boat, which is 75 Eastern Point Road here in Groton. So yeah, as John explained, we're here to talk about the land portion of a project that consists of creating a new bulkhead and building 2 new piers to replace a system of old piers that we recently removed from the river. We need the new piers to support concurrent construction of 2 classes of submarines, the Columbia class and the Virginia class. And the Columbia class in particular spends a lot of time at the pier before it's sent out to sea. So that drives our need for more pier space. And so largely the work that we're doing, we're discussing before you tonight, is related to the landside work, and that landside work is required because we need drive paths to get out to new piers. Slightly different land access from what we had before to the old pier system. So that's driving the need for these modifications. And so I don't need to explain too much more. It's a pretty straightforward project. So I'll turn it over to Kurt from the railroad to discuss the details of it.
Thank you.
Also, for the record, those are the boards.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Kirk Procherena, Prochorena, licensed professional engineer with Lorero Engineering Associates, 15 Thames Street, Groton, Connecticut, representing the applicant, Electric Boat Corporation. As John mentioned, we're here seeking three approvals: special permit, site plan approval, and coastal site plan approval. We have a few boards here to explain the project. We'll start at a high level and then get a little more focused in. You're all familiar with the Electric Boat site, a rather large site, 74.89 acres, about 75 acres. Our project represents a fairly small portion of that down here along the waterfront. The blue area is what's called phase 1 of the project. The green area is called phase 2 of the project. Although we're seeking approval for the project as a single unit, it will actually get constructed in 2 separate sequences. So just important to know. Relatively speaking, it's a fairly small part of the overall campus. And as John mentioned, on the water side, you can see the existing berths have been removed. We are focusing on the land side for the infrastructure that is to support that pier system. Zooming in a little bit, the same diagram. Again, the blue area, phase 1. The green area, phase 2. The phase 1 area totals 0.6 acres. So as John mentioned, a fairly small project. That does include a smaller fill area, which has already been approved through the permitting process with DEEP that John talked about 0.35 acres. On phase 2 of the project, that represents a total of 0.79 acres. And of that, 0.62 acres existing and a very small fill of 0.17 acres. This is really a utility improvement project on the land side, and all those utility systems are intended to support the berths. The project does not include the construction of any buildings. There is no new parking. There are no new roadways per se being installed. It's essentially improving facilities that are on the land side to support the construction of those new berths. The site is mainly impervious and will remain so by its nature as a shipyard. So a quick overview of the project there. You can see the phase 1, phase 2. Going into a little bit of the project sequence. I won't reiterate what John said, but essentially it's the 2 berths. The marine side, state and federal permits listed here, DEEP and Army Corps in place, secured, as John mentioned. The materials that were part of those permits did include some of the work we're doing here, in particular stormwater, which we'll get into a little more detail. On the land side is where we need the permits from this commission. 2 phases. The process of construction is going to be the same for both phases. I'll go through that very briefly. Essentially, it's five processes, 5 steps. The first one is temporary site controls, and that's your typical erosion sedimentation control. We have lots of those. Those are done in accordance with the soil erosion sedimentation control guidelines from the state and city zoning regulation section 7.8C. Once those areas are in place and stabilized, then there'll be some selective site demolition, and that's essentially removing pavement materials, relic structures. There's old cabinets and those kinds of things that will be removed by the contractor. Once that site preparation phase is done, new utility infrastructure will be installed. And as I mentioned, really, this is a utility project. Various utilities, electric, telecommunications, various gases, all the kinds of things needed to support the submarines when they're in the berths. Stormwater management systems are part of that in the ground work. Essentially, we have 2 types of stormwater systems that we're looking at on the project. And Ellis will get into a little more detail on this, but I want to give an overview. When we design a project like this, we divide it up into watersheds. And on this site, there are 6 watersheds, and we have to manage the stormwater from those watersheds. This site is fairly unique in that we're not really creating new developments. We're essentially redeveloping an existing site and improving what's there. To the east of our project, outside of our project areas, we have stormwater management systems, which ultimately drain down to the Thames River. As part of our design, although we're not doing anything with those existing systems, we have added some treatment units to treat the stormwater from those systems. So we think that's a very good thing. We're actually improving some of the existing systems that are actually not part of the project, but that do ultimately flow through the project area. In the area where the improvements are taking place, we are essentially replacing the stormwater management systems that are there today with modern, what I call state-of-the-art stormwater management systems. A critical part of those systems, of course, is handling the quantity of water. As I mentioned, it's impervious. But another key component of that is treating that water. As John mentioned, the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual, which is specifically referenced in the city regulations, requires that we treat that water, and I'll also get into a little more detail on how that's being done. But we're achieving full treatment of that water. So in summary, we essentially have two stages of treatment. The area that's not part of the project, we've added some treatment units, and then all of the new systems that are being installed have these state-of-the-art treatment units that Ellis will talk about. So with the treatment units, we've achieved what in your zoning regulations, 7.7C1A is pollution or pollutant reduction. So we've achieved that. The second item that's required, 7.7C1B, is groundwater recharge and runoff reduction. We are seeking relief from that, and the third party review has concurred. As John mentioned, there's not really any room here to infiltrate stormwater. A lot of this site is fill, there's rock material, it's just not amenable to that. And then the third item that's required is what's called peak flow control. And generally, peak flow control is meant so you're not flooding out your neighbor downstream. We have no neighbors downstream, it's the ocean. The good news is our existing conditions peak flow essentially matches our proposed conditions peak flow. So we haven't really changed anything. We don't need relief from that item. If it was a wooded site and we were going to develop it and put in parking lots, there'd be a vast difference between existing conditions and proposed. In our case, because the site is already developed, it's impervious, we're not really changing. The last item on the list, sorry, I flipped down there at the very bottom, site construction. Once all of the in the ground work is done, again, the utility infrastructure and the stormwater, the site will be restored, and that generally includes paving. That's going to be a combination of bituminous pavement, concrete pavement, installation of some above grade utility infrastructure, racks and other types of things. We are in the flood zone. But again, no new buildings, no parking areas, or the like on the land side of the project. So as John mentioned, a fairly simple project. To close with the coastal site plan review, as John mentioned, DEEP has reviewed those aspects of it. We of course provided our information in this application, but we do comply with all of the coastal site plan elements. We are a water dependent use, and this project of course fits within that water dependent use. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ellis to get into a little more detail on stormwater.
Good evening. My name is Ellis Farmer. I'm an employee at Groton Engineering.
Spell your last name, please.
Ellis Farmer,
Spell your last name.
Farmer.
Thank you.
And my first name is Ellis. Yeah. I'm basically only going to go over the stormwater treatment because that's the only stormwater management we're really required to meet, or that we're going to meet. We're not seeking relief from. But it's pretty simple. We were proposing two different units. We have a primary treatment unit, which is the contact jellyfish. And as a pre-treatment to that, we have the contact cascade units. They each are inline structures. So they include an internal bypass for high peak flows. And they basically meet all, or just the treatment unit alone will meet the pollutant load reduction that is required. The pre-treatment is required to keep this unit functioning as it uses the filter system. So to get any floatables or sediments out of that, the downstream flow, we pose the contact units, the contact cascade units. They're pretty simple. They both offer multiple ways for inflow and outflow. and they both have these sumps for sediment capture. And as I mentioned, they both have internal bypass weirs for the overflow. And that's how we meet the stormwater management quality requirement. And I'll pass it back to John.
Again, for the record, John Casey with Robinson and Cole. I realize I never spelled my name. It's standard C-A-S-E-Y. So, I don't want to belabor anything, but obviously we're here to answer any questions that you have. But I'll just, quickly just go over the special permit criteria. They said we're just looking for a special permit under 77D, which allows modifications to the stormwater quality requirements, and we're only looking for a modification to 77C1B, which is the requirement for groundwater recharge and runoff volume reduction. And that is because the site, as Kurt said, it doesn't lend itself to detention or infiltration. It's basically a filled site. And just as a matter of history, not great history, or far back history, but when the South Yard Assembly Building was built, we requested and were granted the same special permit in that case. So sort of every application is different, but I think it shows the limitations with this site. And again, the issue there with, as Kurt said, is you don't want to be flooding your downstream neighbor. So you want to hold this and retain as much water on site, but for us, our downstream neighbor is the ocean. So everything has always been just flowing out the existing stormwater management structures, and it will just continue to do so. So as a special permit, this still has to meet the compliance with the special permit criteria in section 9(4)D. I won't get into these. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll just give you a high level. The first is whether the zoning purposes, whether the proposed use or activity is consistent with the purposes of the regulation. Again, we're not changing any use. This is an existing use. It just supports the use that's going on there again, or currently. So we believe that the entire project is consistent with the zoning regulations and it's in harmony with other uses on the site. Another criteria is environmental protection and conservation. The fact that DEEP has issued a permit, which requires review of the Coastal Management Act and all its environmental and coastal resource requirements, I think is evidence that we have done all we can. We've mitigated, we've minimized, avoided, minimized, or mitigated every potential environmental concern at the site. The third criteria is overall neighborhood compatibility. Again, this is just say more of the same. It's same use on the site. There were piers there in the past, and we're just replacing them with new modern piers. And the overall use of the site will not change. Its location on the site between the large graving docks, down the hill, behind buildings, it will be, you won't see it from the land. You will only be able to see it from the harbor. But even then, it'll be, again, more of the same at the site. So we don't think it'll affect the neighborhood at all. We think it's a suitable location for the use. It's the only location for the use. When we were here with the South Yard Assembly Building, if you were here, we went through and explained why that needed to go where it went. And even though it's a large site, it is constrained, and EV is making the most of all its waterfront to fulfill its mission. They are appropriate improvements, especially here where we're improving the stormwater management on the site. Suitable transportation conditions, I don't think is really an issue here, again, this isn't gonna change how the campus is used at all. Overall use. Seventh consideration is adequate public utilities and services. This site has that. As Kurt said, it's really a utility project. We're upgrading the utilities on that area of the campus and as they go out to the new piers. And long-term viability, I said this last time, EB is obviously investing a lot of money into this project and into the campus in general. And I don't think there's any question that they are here to stay. Nuisance avoidance, again, I don't think particularly relevant, but I don't think this will create a nuisance to any neighbors or people traveling on the Thames Street. It's just out of view. And then the last is, not the last, the second to last is compliance with the plan of conservation and development. There's sections in there that talk about electric boats specifically, and certain sections provide that the goal is to encourage and promote economic development. This will do that. It will continue electric boats redevelopment and investment into its facility. There's a lot of policies regarding to continue to promote economic development, and strategies to promote that is to support existing businesses and encourage expansion of existing businesses. While this isn't really much of an expansion, it is an upgrade to the facility. And then section 5.3 of the plan of conservation and development is to manage activities in coastal areas. That recognizes the industrial nature of the waterfront. And so the city wants to promote balanced development in the coastal area to ensure full utilization while increasing and enhancing water access. So I think this applies here specifically. Again, it's allowing redevelopment or improvement in an existing industrial waterfront site, and will ensure full utilization of the industrial waterfront. Now, lastly, mitigation is one of the concerns, and whether all adequate provisions have been made to moderate or mitigate neighborhood impacts by limiting the intensity of the use of the property. And as I said, there's really no change that's going to happen at EB. It'll be imperceptible to the neighborhood, and the overall use of the property will not change. So we believe, and as shown by our application materials, our presentation tonight, that we've established the that we are sorry, let me start that over. Based on the evidence, our presentation tonight, our application materials, we satisfied the criteria for granting a special permit. I know your engineer, I believe, is on the line. We've had very productive discussions with them to demonstrate we comply with 7.7D. Also that the site plan is appropriate for this location. And that coastal site plan approval is also appropriate. So with that, I will finish, and if there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners at this point? Anybody? All right, well, I guess I have a couple. I know that this may not, these may not pertain necessarily to the shore side. But could you just, for my understanding, could you show me what's going to be removed and where the new piers are going to be installed?
Sure. So on the big board here, this sort of L-shaped pier between graving docks 3 and 2 and 1, that actually has been removed.
So that's gone already.
It's gone already,
Okay.
which I think demonstrates that this doesn't have, you wouldn't know it unless you really went to look for it. EV got a permit from the state to remove that as in anticipation of this project. So that's down. Those are World War II area piers, and they physically could not handle the new piers and what's needed to test and berth the new submarines at them. So these here on this plan, it's under the green area here. It looks like an L.
Okay, and that's where the new piers will go.
And then the new piers, so this is a close-up. And you can just see the starts of the north pier and the south pier. South pier is in phase 1 and the north pier is in phase 2.
Okay,
And they'll go out, just so you know, they go out about the same distance as the existing breeding pond. So they don't impact on a federal navigation channel. They stay sort of within the shadow of the existing structures.
all right, and then, and there's also gonna be some work done on the shoreline, right, in terms of. There's gonna be some additional pilings.
Correct.
There's gonna be additional pilings put in along the shoreline.
Well, right along the shore, there's the existing buildings and there's a small area of filled land with the asphalt. Maybe I'll let Kurt explain this.
Yeah, there's along the waterfront, oh, yep, sorry. Again, for the record, Kurt Butcherano, the Rowe Engineering Associates, along the existing waterfront, generally in this area, there's a concrete, what we call a relieving pier, and it's essentially where the land slopes off into the ocean. It creates a flat surface for various activities. That will be replaced because it's old, it's outdated, so a new one will be put in. That work is included in the deep permits because it's below the coastal jurisdiction line. So the landside work will take place behind that structure, for lack of a better term, on the land.
Okay, so are you gonna be putting pilings in there is my question?
It will be sheet pile, which is not actually cylindrical round piles, but sheet pile vertical face at the waterfront, yes.
Okay, so that, and to support the new docks, will piles be driven for that?
Yeah, the new piers are on piles, and that's all part of that deep permit. Yes.
Understood. So, and are those aren't sheet piles, those are the cylindrical?
That is correct. Concrete, I believe, cylindrical piles
Okay.
driven into the seabed.
So the reason I'm asking is because, there were a lot of noise complaints from neighbors when the piles were driven for the South Yard Assembly Building. So, I mean, there aren't any real close neighbors here.
Yep.
But I just wanna confirm what you anticipate from this noise during that construction work.
Yeah, so this is Paul Heron again, from Electric Boat. Yeah, much different installation of these files. So for South Yard Assembly Building, we had 505 drilled shafts. So they were, between 4 and 7 foot in diameter, mostly 4, but and then those were drilled into rock between 3 and 10 feet. We are not drilling into the rock, with these. We're seeding them in rock, but we're not, drilling that 3 to 10 feet into the rock.
So it'll be driven to the rock, but not drilled into it, is that correct?
Right.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Okay, so I have that correct, so we
Yeah.
don't,
No.
so in terms of the noise that would be anticipated, this would be significantly less than the drilling, the noise was generally
The
from
drilling.
the drilling, correct?
And mostly the drilling of the piles that were on land as opposed to in the water. And there are none on land here. These are all in the water. So, yeah, you won't, I would be surprised if anybody notices the installation of these piles.
All right, Ms. Bergeron, your comment?
Well, I was more concerned with the noise with the pounding.
Yes, yeah, we're not pounding, we're drilling in drilling to seat the steel casings for those concrete piles. And then for the bulkhead, The sheet piles will be vibrated in, so not that pounding that they did over state here, I think, for some, but
And this would be done during normal business hours or?
probably a 10-hour shift, probably from say 6:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. So we don't have a contractor under contract yet, but you know, it would not be the 2 10-hour shifts that we did for the Southward Southern Building.
Okay.
All right, other questions or comments from commissioners? Thank you. About staff comments.
It is my great pleasure to turn this over to our consultant we hired as a third-party consultant. This. So,
All right, and they're on the Zoom call.
yep, Steve. You just turn it-
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, very good. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. My name is Steve D'Ambrosio. It's D' capital AMBROSIO, civil engineer with GZA. We reviewed the applicant's submission and issued a comment letter in early March with 10 comments. I'll try to quickly go through them. The first comment just discussed the site demolition and preparation plans that the applicant had provided. We were just looking for additional information to clarify the proposed work and what was being demolished in preparation for the new work. Comment 2, we requested sediment erosion control plans. They had provided details in their submission, but not a plan showing where some of the sediment erosion control best management practices were being proposed. Comment 3 dealt with the stormwater management report. Their initial report included a drainage area map for and hydraulic calculations for the proposed conditions, but they didn't provide similar information for existing conditions. So we asked that the applicant provide that information for existing conditions. So an existing conditions drainage map and accompanying hydraulic and hydrologic calculations so that we could compare the two, the existing conditions to the proposed. Comment 4, we mentioned that the existing system, those existing outfalls, there's 4 of them, that the applicant is proposing to reconfigure with this project. And we felt there was opportunity under the redevelopment requirements for them to review that existing system and see if they could provide additional treatment for the stormwater that'd be discharging to the river. Comment 5 was just a clarification, a request for clarification on some of the drainage areas and how they were proposed to drain through some of these treatment devices that they proposed. Comment 6, let's see, again, was just clarification on the stormwater management system. They're proposing a pre-treatment device, which one of the applicant's team had mentioned. There's a contact cascade unit that they're proposing for pre-treatment, and then a contact jellyfish unit that they're proposing for additional treatment. And it wasn't clear in the original plans how where those devices were being proposed within the system. Comment 7. So those proprietary devices, that the contact cascade and the contact jellyfish units that they're proposing, we were asking for the manufacturer's flow rates for each of the units that the applicant has chosen. Units typically have a flow rate associated with treatment. So the unit is able to treat flows up to a certain flow rate. And then the units are also capable of bypassing larger storms through the unit. And we were just asking for that information. Comment 8 was the request for relief the groundwater recharge and runoff volume reduction. That's the zoning regulation section 77C1B. And we're in agreement with the applicant that viable locations within the project area for groundwater recharge and volume reduction are limited. And really the nature of the subsurface material, which is just fill in a tidally influenced area, is not amenable to groundwater recharge. Comment 9 dealt with the applicant's request to receive relief about the peak flow control for the 10-year, 25-year, and 100-year storm events. Again, that's zoning regulation 77C1C. As discussed tonight, the information that the applicant has provided now shows that the peak flow rates from the existing condition and the proposed condition are equal, they're equivalent, so there is no increase. So there's no need to request relief from that requirement. And then the last comment we have was just on the coastal area management plan they submitted. There was an error on the listed flood elevation. They had listed an elevation of 10 feet and it should be elevation 11. And we've worked with the applicant. There's been a few rounds of back and forth. They've actually done a very good job providing information that we've requested. And as of this afternoon, all the information that they've provided has resolved our 10 comments. We've yet to issue a formal letter, but we will author that and submit that to the city. I expect that'll happen tomorrow.
So you're satisfied that all your comments have been adequately addressed by the applicant?
That is correct. Yes.
Right. We just need it in writing and we'll get that tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
All right. Any other staff comments on this?
No, the only thing I would suggest is if you are inclined to close the public hearing tonight, that you keep it open at least only for the receipt of the letter.
Or who would make, Mr. Casey, do? Okay.
I think because he's your staff, that can come in after the close of the hearing. And I think we'd be comfortable with that. The applicant would be comfortable with that.
So if we wanted to deliberate on this, we could approve it with the condition that we get the letter from the consultant.
Yes, yeah.
That'd be a way to handle it.
I believe, yes. You have his testimony, I think, the letter.
Right, yeah, we've got him on video.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments from commissioners? Any staff, any other issues that we need to be concerned about?
No. GCA did a great job of working with the applicant.
All right, so then the next thing I'm gonna do is see if there's any public input. So anybody from the public here that would like to speak in favor or in opposition or neither in favor or opposition to the application? Anyone? How about on the Zoom call? Is there anyone on the Zoom call who would like to speak either in favor, opposition, or neither, or in favor or opposition to the application? Anyone on the Zoom call want to speak about this? All right, I don't see anybody raising their hand. Anything else from commissioners? Any other?
I just was curious, well, this week we'll be able to make 2 or 3 more subs per year.
They'll be able to birth 2 or 3 more subs.
All right. Anything else? All right, thank you, everyone. Is there a motion to close the public hearing? Motion to close the public hearing from Mr. James. Second from Mr. Flores. Any discussion on the motion? Questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Abstentions? Or anybody want to vote no? All right, so that motion to close is approved 4-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, item on the agenda is, possible deliberation and action on the application for the public hearing, so. Comments from commissioners on approving or not approving the application? It seems like all the issues that were raised by the consultant were gonna addressed by the applicant. It does seem rather straightforward from our, the issues that are relevant for us. The DEP has approved the application. I think that Mr. Casey made a good case for why the applicant is meeting the special permit criteria. And we've dealt with a similar issue before for the sub-yard assembly building, and we approved that. It seems to me to make sense to go ahead and approve this application as well. Any other comments from commissioners in that regard? Anybody have anything else that they'd like to add to that, or any comments in opposition to it? To move it forward with it. All right, so is there
A discussion about operation?
So do we want to place a limit on the hours of operation? They indicated they expected a 10-hour shift from, say, 6:30 in the morning to 4:30. Do we want to limit it to that, or?
Instead of limiting, like, you could require them to come back if they are going to change this, which has happened with other projects.
So if we put in the motion, with any activity, let's say any activity, because as long as it's not making noise, I don't think it matters. So something to the effect of only between the hours of 6:30 and 7. Or,
You can say, yeah,
And that
or
way,
you could give them a
if-
10-hour,
or
you could
more
give them a
than 10.
window within which to work the 10 hours.
But how would we state that so it doesn't include all activities, just the noise activity?
Could be work related to the setting of tiles.
But even saying the setting of piles, I mean, if they're just working on. I don't know, how does everybody else feel? Any comments?
I'm not saying we have to do.
Yeah, I
this.
don't see a reason for us to regulate that. I mean, I feel like we putting an undue burden on them on their side, and you make the argument that if it comes up that they have to make the construction beyond that time, it's just gonna slow down their process and it's gonna drag out how long the noise will last day wise. So I don't see a particular reason why we should put that
Yeah.
restriction on it.
I agree as well. I wouldn't want to put any I think it's reasonable what they propose, they're building submarines on the site, you know, we want to be supportive of it. I wouldn't be inclined to go further and add any amendments related to operational hours.
Yeah, the other, I mean, I guess the other thing here is that, you know, the amount of noise that's gonna be generated is expected to be, low because of the type of work that's being done. And also there aren't any close neighbors like there were with the Saltpierre Assembly Building, right? There's a little more distance between, where this work is being done and where the adjacent homes are located. So. Ms. Bergeron, are you okay with moving forward without it? Well, that's-
Especially since there's not gonna be that pounding.
Right.
That
and the-
seemed to
and
really
the-
upset
and the-
it,
and
and
the
that
rock
wasn't even
drilling,
that.
which was the other issue, I think. All right, I think we do want to put the condition that we received the letter of approval from is it an approval letter from the consultant? Or is it a,
Call it
Letter of approval,
a letter of. Sure,
or even like.
resolution of.
letter confirming that all comments have been adequately addressed, all concerns and comments from the consultant have been adequately addressed, is how we do it. A letter confirming that. I'm drafting here, so. So it's the farm
CCA.
GZA. So what I would have, so what that sounds like to me is, we were looking for a motion to approve on the condition that the letter is received from the consultant GZA, confirming all concerns have been adequately addressed by the applicant. Is that language?
All right, let me tell you what I have.
Okay.
Motion made to approve site plan application upon receipt of letter from Steve D'Ambrosio from GZA, with that all concerns have been addressed and approved.
All right, now, do we have to do 3 approvals for site plan, special permit, and
Yes, 3 motions, 3 votes.
okay, so. First one would be for special permit number 4, special permit is 475, right? All right, so we need a motion to approve special permit 475 on condition that a letter is received from the consultant Steve D'Ambrosio of GZA, confirming all concerns have been adequately addressed by the applicant. Motion by Mr. Boris. Their second from Ms. Bergeron. All right, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, okay, that is approved 400. All right, next is a motion to approve site plan number 503. On the condition that a letter is received from the consultant, Steve D'Ambrosio of GZA, confirming all concerns have been adequately addressed by the applicant. Motion from Mr. Boris. Is there a second?
I'll second this then.
Second from Mr. James. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstentions? All right, that motion is approved. 4-0-0. And then finally, a motion to approve CAM number 337, excuse me. On condition that a letter is received from the consultant, Steve D'Ambrosio of GZA, confirming all concerns have been adequately addressed by the applicant. All those, is there a motion? Motion from Mr. Boris, all right. And a second, second from Ms. Bergeron. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, that motion is approved 4-0-0. All right, thank you. Okay, we're good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
You're very welcome.
All right, next we've got, an application. Site plan number 505, I'm sorry. Application site plan number 504, CAM number 388. This is just an acceptance, correct? It's Pfizer, care of, Hudson O'Neill, 445 Eastern Point Road, demolition of the building 185 complex. So that's, we received that, that's received automatically by meeting tonight. And I would really like to say that was the last building I worked at. No. No.
So is your enthusiasm to approve this application a conflict of interest?
So when we get to it, so we get there, I will make a statement about my ability to vote on that.
They're making space for your statue there.
That's right.
It's not gonna be my statue. I'm sure. All right, and then there's an application, site plan number 505 from Advanced Improvements LLC. 36 North Street, and they want to put up an accessory building on the same lot with the principal use to be used for outside storage of equipment, so we'll accept that as well. And then that will be reviewed at the next meeting, just like the Pfizer application. And those do not require public hearings because there are no special funding. Correct. All right. Next up is discussion of possible zoning regulation amendments. We had been talking about what we wanted to work on next, right? That was we're looking at 5 corners, that still a priority.
Yeah, I've been working on this modification of the signage regulations. And been a little bit just scheduling wise here, the time frame and windows put in, offices moved temporarily. Been a little crazy. So I have not completed that, but that is pretty close to done. And I can probably get you, depending upon. I will aim to have a draft to you. I was hoping to have it for this meeting, but I will draft to you before next meeting. And then depending on how long the applications go. If I get it to you in a reasonable time to read it, should only be, 2 or 3 pages, we're not. Gonna be another 10,
All right.
vote.
You said that was.
Yeah.
Is that for the whole city or specific parts?
We should talk about it at the time. We may be able to do it for the whole.
What is it currently? What currently are the, as in like, is this a section you're changing that currently exists only in one section or?
No, it's the signage regulations for the whole city.
Right.
And it is. Again, just sort of trying to. Bring them. To a point where they are making. Where they make this, they don't make the city look the same. It's not that everybody has to have the same size sign, but it makes it. It puts some restrictions on lighting, and some of it is just making the section a little more organized in terms of being able to.
I was just
read it and
wondering what the
understand.
scope of it was, thank you.
Yeah, it's not scope like we have.
Okay. Any other questions, comments about that? All right. I just wanted to, let everybody know that I've been asked to join the Groton City Stormwater Assessment Advisory Committee. So, I'm gonna be doing that. Does anybody else have any?
I'm gonna go.
Oh, good. All right, anybody else have anything? Mostly anything from you, any communications or anything?
Nothing that you didn't receive. In the last couple of days. Just with regard to the ED. I have, when it was, for the last meeting or not, so I'm just gonna say it again, all of the information I believe that is required for the return of record has been turned over to our attorney. They would come from our side, it's also all those exhibits. And the recordings and, so I'm waiting to hear back on any next steps, but, I know that as Brian mentioned to all of you, it's a bit of a wait to get to land use court, so I will let you know. Probably go into executive session for that, but I'll let you know what I know when you know it.
Okay, so right now, the only update is that all the documentation required has been turned over to the city attorney. Yeah. And anything to be discussed in executive session tonight?
No,
Okay.
the only question I have, sorry, just to go back to the regulation discussion is if you all have thoughts on the areas that you want to target next. We should have that conversation.
I would just ask the question, if there's an area that you think would drive development or move us towards the objective of housing, you know, the hot button issues, I kind of defer to you about if something, you know, professionally you think would help to do that. I think we'd all be interested in addressing it. I don't know necessarily what that would be citywide or whether it's drilling into a particular area, but
I can tell you that I think that the places that have the space for increased housing, and you need a certain amount of space, is sort of it's sort of the continuation of the TIF district in the going south, so from Main Street, and it overlaps with the Five Corners. So I can certainly provide a map of where that would be, and if any of you have thoughts on this as well, please let me know.
All right, I know the town is working on selecting a developer for the Groton Heights School, is that correct? And once that occurs, then at some point we may see an application for that. And I guess if we need to make any regulatory changes, we would address them at that point. Is that? I mean,
Yeah.
it's likely to be filed under the reuse provision, correct?
Adaptive reuse,
Adaptive
yeah,
reuse.
which provides quite a bit of
Give us some
flexibility,
flexibility.
yeah. So I think that makes a lot of sense, actually, because nobody knows who's gonna be developing it and for what use, and
Down to two. And they have to use the vote.
and see things like that change, so
Sure.
I don't wanna get us stuck into something, put a lot of effort and get stuck into something. I think it makes sense to wait till
Oh, I
a decision's been made and then we can work with the applicant.
But the town is close to a decision, correct? And that was my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, they've narrowed it down to two developers, two different options, if you will. And so, they haven't made a decision on that yet, so.
Okay. And then once they select somebody, then we'll be waiting for that developer to file an application with the city.
Right.
Um,
I think there's enough public information, just to your question, there's enough public information about the two possible developments that we could read ahead, do a little homework on what such an application would require, if it's falls within adaptive reuse, or if we would have to do a special zoning amendment or something to allow for the desired use, but like Leslie said, it's not a thing, it's also a thing. So,
well, that was,
paraphrase what you said.
because I have been watching the town council meetings, and they were discussing the two. And then they said they would decide whether or not to have a public hearing, and it really wondered, we never get to decide. We just have to have them. So they can just decide not to have one.
I think what they were referring to was relating to their process of making a choice, making a selection. I thought they put it back to committee to make the decision.
That's what they
Yeah.
had said.
My understanding was they asked, the committee referred both as potential to the town council, and the town council asked the committee to decide on one and refer one. That's. I'm on the other committee for another school, Pleasant Valley, and we did the same. That's all I do.
So how come we didn't have time for public hearing? I want everybody to go through all.
Okay, and while we're talking about this school developments, is there anything happening at the Colonel Ledyard School in Westfield?
It's proceeding, there's a phase one. And I do know that the developer has been to the building department to get permits, were some cleanup things of getting signatures on different things for the building department that they were working. So I have not spoken to the developer in few weeks,
Okay,
which usually means that nothing definitive is happened, but I don't know that.
all right. Anything else? A motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. James, is there a second? Second for Mr. Boris. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, none. We're adjourned at 7:49. All right, thanks, everybody.
At least the recording.